Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, visiting Kfar Aza, the kibbutz 4 miles from the Gaza border, decimated on October 7th. A closer look at the events of that day and understanding the new era Israel entered into with its neighbors. Plus, we'll see how one man's business affected by war pivoted, thanks to help from CBN, and his vision for bringing hope to the children of Gaza. All this and more on this special edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Today we're taking you to Kfar Aza, the kibbutz 4 miles from the Gaza border, decimated by Hamas and then Gazan civilians in the hours afterward. It's a wrenching story, now part of modern Israel's history. But before we begin, here's the latest from our news desk.
The Israel Defense Forces say they found the video in Khan Yunis. The IDF says it shows Shiri Bibas and her 2 children, 4-year-old Ariel and 9-month-old Kfir, taken captive on October 7th, terrorists wrapping them in a sheet and forcing them into a car.
Those who have the audacity to question our need to operate in Gaza, but don't have the decency, the basic decency and humanity to demand that Hamas release our hostages first of all. They all should take a good look at this terrified mother, Shiri, clutching her babies.
Kfir has since turned 1 year old while in captivity. Meanwhile, in The Hague, the International Court of Justice is hearing arguments over Israel's so-called occupation of Palestinian-claimed territory. Lawyer for the Palestinians Paul Riker says it's all about a Palestinian state.
The best and possibly the last hope for the two-state solution that is so vital to the needs of both peoples is for the court to declare illegal the main obstacle to that solution, the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine.
Attorney Andrew Tucker represents Fiji, one of the few nations speaking out for Israel.
Palestinians argue that Israel is illegitimate and that the Palestinians are the true indigenous people of Palestine, and they must have, at the very least, a state in all of the so-called occupied territories. That includes the old city of Jerusalem, the whole of the West Bank or Judea and Samaria, the Gaza Strip.
He says the hearing is an illegitimate process intended to undermine the sovereignty of a UN member state.
Fiji is basically arguing the court has no business in this conflict. This is a conflict between Israel and the Palestinians.
Tucker says in a worst-case scenario, the court declares Israel an illegal occupier.
The very existence of Israel and the territories, militarily, administratively, but also the settlements are all illegal. Therefore, Israel should withdraw all of that out of the territories. And that will be used in all kinds of political processes to boycott Israel, to isolate Israel.
Meanwhile, in the UN Security Council, the U.S. vetoed a resolution for a ceasefire, but is circulating another proposal calling for a temporary ceasefire linked to the release of all hostages and humanitarian aid to Gaza. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Since October 7th, thousands have come to see the kibbutzim in what's known as the Gaza envelope, the Israeli communities within 4 miles of the Gaza border. The kibbutz residents are hardy people. They had lived with rocket fire and shelling from Hamas for decades. CBN News went to Kfar Aza to see for ourselves what happened there. And the IDF arranged a tour with IDF Reserve Captain Maya, a member of the IDF spokesman's unit. Maya is a young soldier with a personal mission to help people understand this moment in Israel's history.
Well, thank you for being here. I think that some of you have already seen it with your own eyes, and for some it's the first time. And I think that being here and seeing it with your own eyes, and I tell this to every person that comes here, is extremely important. I think that watching it through the screen, seeing photos and videos, hearing about it, is not quite the same as seeing it with your own eyes.
IDF Reserve Captain Maya gave CBN News a first-hand tour of Kfar Aza, one of the 22 kibbutzim attacked by Hamas on October 7th. Of the 950 residents, Hamas murdered 63, kidnapped 18. In all, 10% of the people.
Not talking about the trauma, not talking about the ones luckily weren't here, not talking about the ones lightly injured. 10% of the population. And again, this is 1 out of 22.
Kfar Aza was an ideal place to live.
But you can only imagine what a beautiful place this was. Now, to give us a better understanding, before the 7th of October, you'd have 10 to 15 seconds to enter a safe room, a mamad, and each and every house has a mamad, it's mandatory. But life was beautiful. And at times it escalated and they were used to living under fire, but life was beautiful.
Since October 7th, life and time has stood still.
You know, people around the world have been hearing they're saying that this is AI. This is not AI. This is not a movie scene. We did not set it up. This is people's homes, and this is where the atrocities of October 7th happened, and in a sense, time here stands still.
Early morning, October 7th.
I'm gonna try and take you back to October 7th, 6:30 a.m., where we have 15 minutes non-stop ongoing alarms that were alarming even for the people who lived here and were used to living under fire. Less than 30 minutes later, we have hundreds of terrorists infiltrating this very kibbutz. The estimation is 300 to 400. They come in by air with gliders, Buckeyes, by land with pickup trucks. Most of them had machine guns glued on them, set on automatic, and with motorbikes. And unfortunately come in very well prepared, and they just start shooting, rampaging, screaming and yelling in Arabic. They come in with guns, RPGs, grenades, bombs, and they just start shooting. And people are hiding inside their mamads. And this is what's going on. This is before 7 a.m. Now, we're going to be talking later about what a mamad is, but a mamad is supposed to be protecting you from bombs, from missiles, not from terrorists. And this is the reality of October 7th.
We walked along what has become called the Street of Death.
It's not just bodies. You would have dismantled bodies, bodies that were beheaded, that were raped, sexually assaulted, set on fire.
Yeah.
But you know, time goes by, and the world is not only forgetting, but is saying, look at Gaza. But what happened here should concern humanity, not just Israelis or Jews. And it's not because we're clinging on to the trauma, it's because something atrocious happened here that concerns humanity. And these stories need to be told, and we need the context as to why we're doing what we're doing right now.
The battle for Kfar Aza lasted 5 days.
So we had 4 teams that would need to enter each building and clear it from explosives. Because what they did was booby-trap bodies. They set bombs on bodies. We found explosives in kids' backpacks. One example I can share with you that I saw is a kid's pink backpack. We later found had 7 kilos of explosives in it.
Kfar Aza sits next to northern Gaza.
We're standing, and you're seeing the back fence of the kibbutz, so the surrounding fence. Behind it, you see the fields. You see the border to Gaza, it's that gray line that you see across the horizon. And behind it you see Gaza, so this is the northern part of the strip. This man and this dog survived October 7th. Oh, wow. And she stayed silent, and they're now back here.
We met Raphael on the way.
So how did you survive?
A lot of prayers, and it's not something logic I can explain, because it's not. I can tell you that 10 meters away from me, people being killed and their house being burned. So I have no logic explained to say why I'm alive and they are not. It is what it is.
What's your message to the world?
Wake up. Wake up. Today it's here. Tomorrow it's in Paris. Day after it's 9/11. Day after it's gonna be in the other place. It doesn't matter how you call the place. They're gonna arrive everywhere. To you, the blonde guy, the dark skin, everyone gonna suffer. If we're not gonna wake up now. They want an Islamic world. As long that you are not going well with the Islamic line, you are an enemy. Doesn't matter if you are Jewish, Catholic, Buddhism, whatever. And I can tell you that also here in the kibbutz was some ladies who's helped them before the war and give them a lot of mercy and money and fight for them and everything. And now, I'm sorry to say that, I'm not happy for that, okay? But they are there. They're in the other side of the boat and no one taking care of them.
Up next, the looting from Gazan civilians that came hours after Hamas began their onslaught. Another revelation that has emerged from investigations into October 7th is the extent to which Gazan civilians were involved. People followed Hamas into the kibbutzim who knew the land, the homes, the personal assets, and the families. Some of the looters might even have been day workers there. Let's rejoin our tour. With Gaza in the background, Maya talked about the second wave on October 7th.
And every person that comes here, I tell them I do not know how I should refer to them. I don't know what's the correct terminology here is. Regular Gazan civilians, I honestly don't know. Because these were Gazans that were not associated or affiliated with Hamas in any way. And they come in here 2 to 3 hours after the first wave, after the first attack, and they loot. They take people's things. And when I'm saying here, it's not just here in this neighborhood, and it's not just here in the kibbutz. It's in the 22 points, communities. And I'm trying to picture in my mind, you have body parts, bodies that were beheaded, raped, sexually assaulted, set on fire. And when this is going on, these people come here and they loot, they take their things. Women, young people, some of them came here by foot, some on motorcycles or motorbikes, some even on donkeys. They were wearing regular clothes, they were not wearing the Nukhba forces uniforms, and they loot. But not only do they loot, they did a lot of the atrocious acts. A lot of the atrocious acts were done by them. They did the murdering, the raping, the sexual assault, the kidnapping, a lot of it was done by them. And then they go back. The mess that you see outside these apartments, and again, this is 106 days after, but the mess that you still see outside these apartments was not done by us. Most of it was not done by the terrorists. It was done by those who came to loot, by those Gazans.
Many of the people in Kfar Aza believed in peace.
We're talking about people that would go at least once a week to the Gazan border to pick up sick kids and women who had cancer, drive them to hospitals in the center of Israel so that they could get proper medical treatment. With their own cars, they didn't get paid for it. They did it out of the kindness of their hearts and out of the need to build a better future because they believed in peace.
Maya took us to a different neighborhood.
If you'd ask the residents of the kibbutz, they'll tell you it was the most beautiful neighborhood. Almost every single person that lived here and was here on the 7th was either murdered or kidnapped, especially from the strip we're just walking. And 4 out of the 5 that are still being held hostage from this kibbutz, from Kfar Aza, 4 of them are from here, from this strip. You'll see their names and faces. When you see the red writing on the signs, it means they were murdered, and when you see the yellow writing, it means they were kidnapped. This was not military versus military. Hamas call themselves the militants of Hamas. We know they're a terror organization, but these so-called militants went about murdering, raping, sexually assaulting, kidnapping innocent civilians that believed in peace and worked towards peace in their houses, with no extension to whether they were kids, women, elderly. It didn't matter. So this is what happened. And I, Maya, the reason that I'm here, doing what I'm doing, is because I believe that the world needs to see and to understand what happened. I do not want to live in a world, in a reality where this is okay and people are standing by or supporting it or saying that it's okay, because this is not okay.
Up next, fighting the information war in the wake of October 7th. A new front has opened up in Israel's war with the radical jihad mentality, and it has to do with information. It's a war for hearts and minds, as the saying goes, and it's on the world stage. Maya says as time goes on, the story is in danger of being drowned out.
I know a lot of what's going on social media and the lies or just dishonest things that people are spreading. And the disinformation, it's more common, I think, with younger crowds, but the following of the trends, the disinformation, because people are, in my opinion, are misinformed. You have every right to have an opinion, but just check your facts. Because when you support Hamas, and at the same time you're supporting the LGBTQ community, it doesn't align. That's one example of it, but just check your facts.
Free Palestine!
But as time goes by, one thing is to remember the people, to tell the stories, because there are so many. But another is to keep on giving context. We're not in a state of trauma of, oh, this happened to us, we need to keep telling this to the world. No, this is not the situation. The situation is that something that should concern humanity, not just our nation, not just our people, not just the Jews. Something happened here on a humanitarian level that should concern the world. And the world is stating a lot of opinions as to what's going on around us. And I get that. But you still need the context, and this is the context. Because, like I said, on October 6th there was a ceasefire. And on October 7th, Hamas chose to break it.
We talked with Maya about her calling.
I'm honored to be doing this because I think it's important for people to see it, and that as time goes by it gets harder to see it and to understand, and especially what the world is getting, so we need to get it out there. Every person that comes here, I tell them when they finish here, and I'm going to say the same thing to you, that you're now ambassadors. You're not just a part of our heartbeat, you're now ambassadors, because seeing it with your own eyes is different.
Maya has toured Kfar Aza with leaders and influencers from around the world.
Again, I'm honored to be doing it. I'm glad to see that there is solidarity from around the world. And I think it's very important because I think it influences a lot of people from around the world. And this is something that's well known around the world, but also at times misinformed, or they just don't know. So it needs to get out there. So people that come here, especially world leaders, diplomats, influencers that come here, first of all, they show solidarity with us, and it's very important, but they also see it so they can keep on telling the story of October 7th, the atrocities of October 7th. And we need to keep allowing legitimization to what we're doing right now in Gaza, because we need to eliminate Hamas, because as we've talked about, Hamas does not just threaten Israelis or Jews, but the world.
Still ahead, helping children find relief from war with joy and laughter, and stories from the Bible. Evacuee families and children have been stuck in temporary shelters and lodging far from home for months now. Thanks to caring friends like you, CBN Israel and Superbook stepped in to create some fun-filled days, giving these families a little life and laughter, and in the process, helping a local business stay afloat. It's an outreach one man hopes to bring to the traumatized children in Gaza one day. Take a look.
My name is Amos Brill. I own an events production company. We provide activities for children and families. I am 37 years old, and I like to believe that this business has existed for 37 years. As a child, I couldn't just quietly sit and study, and from a very young age that caused me to go look for things that I was good at. I was very young when I started DJing. I was doing concerts and weddings at the age of 13, 14. I even gave paid gigs to my 13-year-old friends. Our connection to Superbook started because we do shopping mall events. We are especially busy during holidays. We were looking for a film related to Passover. That is when I came across a Superbook episode. I saw it and I remember I screamed across the office, I found the perfect movie. We realized there was potential there. We know that children want to see stories they already know, and parents look for wholesome content. And here's something biblical and in Hebrew. That is when we decided to collaborate and to show the Superbook stories all around the country. Very shortly after we started working with Superbook, the war began. First days we were in shock. We sat in the office and understood that everything dropped to zero. All the work had stopped. Suddenly, in one moment, everything was on hold. So we thought about what we could do to bring some good. All the workers here, our company in general, we believe the good you do will come back. We believe in helping. Our business actively engages in community projects. We have close ties to many communities. After a whole month of doing free events, we had to look the truth in the eyes. We couldn't afford to continue. We needed to pay our workers who have children of their own. How could I come and ask for financial assistance to pay my workers who have families to support while there are soldiers fighting in Gaza? When we keep hearing about all the lives being lost and about families that are now left without support, they need help, but we are strong. Israelis, Jews, we are strong people. We have endured many challenges. We know how to get through tough times. One morning I just felt that I have to talk to CBN. I told them that I have a warehouse full of great things for children just sitting there. All the kids of the evacuated families are in the hotels, literally climbing the walls. One of the best things to get out of trauma, to deal with the sadness, especially for kids, is physical activity and movement. It's not the phone screens that kids sit in front of all the time. It's jumping on trampolines, doing sports activities and other fun active games. We took them out of their rooms so they could have a change of scenery, and it was a big success. The parents wouldn't stop thanking us, and I would feel uneasy. I told them that they shouldn't be thanking me, but rather CBN and the super book. We, the Israelis, the whole state of Israel, we believe in peace, we want peace, and we don't seek conflict. I think it's a great pity that the enemies around us don't focus on developing and helping their population to care for their children. They turn to terrorism. If they developed Gaza, it could be a beautiful place, but right now the situation is very difficult. We are very sorry for the families and children on the other side who suffer so much. At the end of the day, it's the families who suffer. As a father, it doesn't matter which side it's on. If I hear a child is hurt, I feel deeply sorry for them. It's heartbreaking no matter whose children are suffering. I am really sorry that Hamas, the terrorist organization, has caused such misery for the people there. I really hope that someday all the misery on both sides will end, that we may live in peace. I'd be happy if we could hold events beyond Israel on their side one day. That is my dream in the long run.
Well, that's all for this special edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. After such a sobering program, we want to leave you with some hope from Psalm 16, verses 5 through 8. Lord, you alone are my portion and my cup. You make my lot secure. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Well, encouraging words from the scriptures and the Psalms of King David. Well, I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.